Hi, here's my audience, my mom. Let's get started. Back in the spring of my junior year of high school, I had to wake up bright and early on a Saturday morning to take a 5-hour test that I had prepared for weeks. This test is something that almost every student has had to go through in order to make it to where we are now, and this test was the SAT. My name is Nicole Clayton, and I'm going to discuss standardized testing and what needs to be changed. Standardized tests, such as the SAT and state tests, are an unnecessary component in the American school system that need to be completely abolished or revised. While discussing standardized testing, I will first present the problems with these tests, why the issues have not been properly addressed, and end with possible solutions. So first, the problems. One of the biggest problems with these tests is who they harm. And first and foremost, these tests harm students. Studies show that there are little to no positive effects on students that have to take standardized tests or that have high-stake consequences related to the results of these tests. According to Heinrich, a professor of public policy and education, these high-stakes consequences include college admission decisions and high school exit exams in order to graduate. These consequences put extreme stress on students, causing them to feel pressure to do well on a test that may not even have an impact on how they perform at school regularly. For example, the SAT. It is an extremely important test for high schoolers to take in order to apply to and get accepted to colleges. But it doesn't really affect them throughout the rest of the school year. Admission should depend on a student's skills and aspirations, not a test result. Another problem that affects students is that many of them can face several problems while taking a standardized test, and these problems should not define their intelligence or determine their success in the future. Some of these problems could include running out of time or being presented questions that have no correlation to what they've been learning throughout their years in school. There should be other systems in place in order to give every student an opportunity to succeed. The other group that is greatly affected by these tests is, of course, teachers. They have to spend many weeks worth of precious class time preparing their students for an upcoming state test. If standardized tests were abolished or changed, these weeks could be spent teaching students much more valuable lessons and molding them to be curious learners. And you may be wondering, how long has standardized testing been around? And the answer? Over 2,000 years. The first evidence of a standardized test was in the Han Dynasty in 1st century China. These tests were used to measure bureaucratic abilities for appointment by the Emperor of China. Now that I've addressed the problem and what kind of harm these tests can do, I will now discuss why these flaws haven't been fully fixed. According to Dixon, a scholar and educator, the standardized testing market in the US is worth over $1 billion. This shows that education is like a business, with test results being the commodity. Students are being turned into mindless test-taking machines instead of into intelligent and intrigued learners. And another reason why the problems with these tests haven't been properly addressed is because there are quite a few supporters. And one supporter is Churchill, a research director for the TBF Institute. He argues that the results of these standardized tests are the best way to hold schools and teachers accountable for the performance of students academically. However, results on 1 or 2 tests don't tell every detail about an individual student's performance. As put by Starr, a fellow educator, what should be done if the school's math and reading scores increase, but the students have no career readiness skills? Standardized tests should not be a priority in schools, and the results of these tests should not be used to determine whether or not a school or individual student is successful. It is urgent that these flaws be addressed because the stress from these tests can have lasting effects on students, both physically and emotionally. Now that I've discussed why these problems haven't been properly addressed, I will now discuss some possible solutions that could be implemented. The first solution is one that is already in place in New York. It is a consortium system. It consists of nearly 40 public high schools with a lower dropout rate and higher college enrollment rate than all the regular public schools in New York. According to Strauss, a reporter of education at the Washington Post, the key to success in this system is the practitioner-developed, student-focused performance assessments. In order to graduate, students must take 4 of these performance assessments with different requirements for each one. And these assessments are in place of standardized tests. And the best part about them is that the educators control the material. This ensures that the content is something that the students have seen before. This is a much better alternative because every student deserves an education that is inspiring, not mind-numbing. The second solution would be to just abolish standardized tests completely. This would erase the problems caused by them and could allow for better programs to be implemented. While not all schools have implemented changes, more than 900 colleges have signed to not use ACT or SAT scores in admissions decisions as of 2018. This is a sign that some changes are starting to occur. From all the flaws stated about standardized tests, the one that sticks out to me the most is the fact that Dixon stated, saying that the testing system in the US is worth over $1 billion. This definitely shows where priorities lie. In conclusion, standardized tests are an unnecessary component in the American school system that cause many problems for everybody involved. Preparing for college entrance exams such as the ACT or SAT, or even just smaller state tests, can take away time from students that could have been spent learning much more useful content. This system should either be completely abolished or revised in order to benefit students and educators alike. And here are my references.